to MPC ABCs, episode 4, part 1. I'm going to start breaking these up into smaller parts just so I can take more time to focus on specific aspects of the MPC and JJOS. So in this part, I'm going to go through this track, Ooh Just Ain't Fair, on Melodics, which, as you can see here, I'll just read the description here. Try your hand at sample flipping. The sample flip is a production technique beat makers using chopped up sections of another song. That was worded weird. Try your hand at sample flipping. The sample flip is a production technique beat makers use using chopped up sections of another song. Learn the basics with samples of Reflections by Albert Jones. So this track, just for the most part, it just breaks up sections of this sample across 8 of the pads here, and it's supposed to help you work on timing, but also going to use it to showcase how to go through and actually sample from the Melodics and then make a program in the MPC, which is basically the drum kit that defines the pads and everything. And then from there we'll go dig into other stuff, but that's going to be the focus of this one, is basically just sampling and building the drum kit using this Ooh Just Ain't Fair song. So I'm going to go into the track here, and I'm going to just make sure my MPC is all set up. I've got MIDI set to 1A, which is what my USB is on. I've got it set to 91 beats per minute, which I already know that this track is 91 beats per minute from going into practice mode, but I'll show you how to do that here in a second. But so you can see it's just taking one sample and breaking it into smaller segments across the 8 pads. So we're going to end up using that, and we're going to end up sampling those and then using that to just rearrange the layout of it. So before I even play the track, I'm going to just go in and start sampling right off the bat. So I'm going to show you how to do that here. So I'm going to go to Mode, Record, and I'm just going to go through and get a sample of each one of the pads. And we'll do some more sampling later, but I'm going to walk through that part first. So first thing you got to know is this threshold. Right now, if there was a lot of noise on the signal, you'd see the sound bar jumping up there a little bit. It's not. And when you hit record, it's not going to record anything until you get past those first dots. These second dots are going to show you how high the recording got, basically. So I'm going to bring down this threshold to make it lower so that we don't miss any of the beginning of the sample. And then I'm going to check to make sure that these bars are getting at least almost to the end there. And they're not. So I'm going to turn the record gain up, which, yeah, right here. Now I'm going to hit it again, just see. So that looks probably closer to what I want. I'm going to hit reset peak here so that comes back down. Just try one more of the pads. It all looks like it's still getting up there still, so I think we're good to go there. So I'm going to hit reset peak again. And now I'm going to go and record, and I'm just going to record each pad individually. We could do it all in one and chop it up, but I think it'll just be easier for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to hit record here, and you see there is a little bit of noise showing on the line there, but our threshold's still high enough to where it's not going to be an issue. At least it shouldn't be. Okay, so I'm gonna hit record, and I'm just let's see. Is it? It looks like it is actually. I'm gonna turn my threshold up here just a little bit. what I was looking for is you want to see it saying waiting, otherwise you're catching that noise there. So now we've got waiting for input signal, and I'm gonna just hit stop, and I am gonna actually name these as I save them. A lot of times I would wait till the end, but I'm gonna rename this the same sample name as it has on the pad kit here. So you can see there's ooh1, ooh2, Lord knows, just ain't fair to be, ooh3, ooh4, just ain't fair, and 2b. So I'm gonna make my samples actually match those names. So first one is ooh1. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna hit keep. And now I'm just gonna go through and record each pad in the same way. So record. And that one is ooh2. It remembered the last name, so I don't have to do anything here other than hit keep. And now I'm gonna hit record. Now I'm gonna rename this one Lord Knows. And I'm just using the, it's kind of like the old, I think it was called T9 or K9 on old phones, where you hit the letter or the pad a few different times to get the letter you need. And once you get the hang of it, it goes quicker than you would think, to be honest. So Lord Knows, keep, hit record. Okay. Alright, just ain't fair, enter. Oh wait, actually, this one's just ain't fair to be, not just ain't fair. So I want to make sure I get that, because there is one named just ain't fair later. So I want to just keep those the same. So just ain't fair. Let me add to be at the end. Okay, so we're on pad 5 now. I gotta go back and get. So that's gonna be ooh3. Keep. Can go to record, pad 6. Ooh4, that one's already named because it remembers the last name, so I've just got to hit keep here. Record. And I'm gonna rename this one Just Ain't Fair. Keep. And we got one more to get on pad 8. Alright, now I'm going to call this one 2B. Keep. Alright, so we got all of those recordings there. Now, what I'm going to do is, I forgot. I'll show you guys here. This is where you get the BPMs. So I've already got my BPM set to that, but I did mention that earlier, so I want to point it out. So, let's see. So if you come over here to practice mode, you'll see the BPMs. But, so I'm going to come back over to the MPC, and we've got the samples recorded now, and I'm going to go to mode trim, and you can go through and look through all of them individually, so they're all Alright, so we've got all our samples there. We do need to clean them up a little bit still. One thing I'm going to do is I'm looking through to see if any of them have low peaks that aren't going towards near the end of the graph there. And we got the record gain earlier, so it looks like they all came out pretty good. But something you might want to do with these if they're lower, and this one's the lowest I have, so I'll just show you an example. I'm going to go to Edit, Normalize, and it kind of helps clean up that sound there by normalizing it, and you'll see that it fits the graph better basically. I won't get too into details there, but we really don't have to do that with the other ones today, which is nice. So we're good to go there. Now I just need to trim these up because right now we've got a lot of silence on the end for all of them. So I think we're pretty good on the starts. Looks like there might be a little bit of quiet space on one or two, but yeah, it looks like we were able to use that threshold to get a pretty good start on them all, so that'll save us a little bit of work. So I'm going to go to so that's the start and the end of our selection there. You can see I've probably pretty decently got it towards the dead space at the end, but I'm going to zoom in. And you can zoom in, keep zooming in and out like this to get closer. So, and you can also use the up and down arrows to make the waveform get bigger here, which can be helpful for catching any of the like quieter noises that you do want to catch. This one looks pretty clean though, so I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to go to Delete. And we have the choice here. We can either overwrite the existing sample or keep a new one. I'm going to keep a new one just to show them, but a lot of times I might just want to overwrite. So we can see this is the new one. And, oops. So you can see it's the same sample, but we've got rid of that silence there at the end. So I like this one. I'm gonna move on and just keep trimming up the other ones in the same way. And I'm actually just gonna delete this one since I know I don't want it anymore. I did want to demonstrate the oops. That's not what I meant to do. Retry. Okay, so I'm gonna delete that one, do it, and now I'm gonna rename this one. This is kind of going backwards, but it really isn't named 2. That was just because I wanted to show the differences between the two. I'm not gonna keep doing that though. So I'm just gonna go through and cut out that dead space on the end for all of these basically. So I'm going to start zooming in here. And now I'm going to go to edit, and we're going to delete that section. Do it. This time I'm just going to go to overwrite, and we're going to overwrite the original. So now we've got and I'm just going to go through the rest of the samples and do that for all of them. I'm going to hold shift this time as I scroll over, and you can see it jumps over more quickly. Just makes it a little easier to navigate over to where you're trying to be. Okay, so zoomed in. Heading up to bring up the waveform there. So I'm hitting, you can't quite see it too well, probably with the camera the way it is, but these top rows have play all, play to, play from, play loop, and that can help you with your selection here. So if I hit play from, it's literally just playing that section at the end. You can hear there's no sound there, so I know I'm good to go as far as getting rid of it. And I could probably even so you really don't start hearing anything until there, but I'm gonna go. Okay, so I'm gonna hit edit, delete, and I'm gonna overwrite again because I know I don't necessarily need a full new sample. Okay. And you can see a little more clearly when I hit the play from button. You can see the play button just coming across the section I've got selected, and you're not hearing anything. But I'm going to still zoom in, bring up the waveform, come over here, and now I'm going to go edit, delete, do it, overwrite, and I'm just going to keep repeating that process for the few more we have. Zoom in. Play from's not catching any sound, and we're up to the edge of the waveform there. So edit, delete, do it, overwrite, and on to the next sample. So I'm gonna hold shift, scroll there to the end, start zooming in. Increase the waveform. Play from, I'm not getting any sound. So edit, delete, do it, overwrite, and just doing the same thing again over here, holding shift, scroll to the end, zoom in, increase the waveform, edit, delete, overwrite, and we're just about done now. Edit, delete, do it, overwrite, and that's it. And you can see now all our samples, they end when the sample actually ends. So I think we're in pretty good shape there with the samples. I might want to clean them up a little bit more later, but now what I'm going to do is build a program with those samples. It's going to basically mimic what we're doing in the Melodics there, so right now you're still hearing that because I have MIDI on. So just to show that we're working just with the MPC and not Melodics, I'm going to come in and turn MIDI off. So now you're not hearing the samples on the pads. So I'm going to go to Program, and I'm going to edit this bass program. So I'm just going to go to Mode, Program, and I'm going to just put these samples in the same way as they are on the layout here. So pad A1 is going to be U1. Pad 2 is going to be U2. Pad 3, Lord knows. Pad 4 just ain't fair to be. Pad 5 is going to be U3. 6 is going to be U4. 7 is going to be just ain't fair. And 8 is going to be 2B. So I'm going to rename this program now because it makes sense to name it something that goes with this track. So I'm going to hit, while it's highlighted, I'm going to hit Window, and I'm just going to name it, I'll just name it OJAF just for short. So now we got a program named OJAF. So we've got that set up. It's mimicking what we've got in the Melodics program there. So we could at this point just kind of, you'll notice that it's kind of overlapping there though. For a program like this, you could just rely on timing entirely, so where you're just but what you can also do is go to Mode, Program, and change it from up here at the top from poly to mono, and that way it'll only ever play one pad at the same time. So if I go back to main now, just it's cleaner transitions between them basically. So depending on what you're trying to do, you might want to do either way, but for right now, for simplicity, I'm going to leave it on mono. It'll make it easier for going through this demonstration. But at this point, we've sampled all of the main pads from the track. We don't have the background track yet, but we do have everything pretty well laid out. And so what I'm going to do is, before we get too far along, I'm going to go to save. So I'm going to go to mode, save, and we could just save that program, but if we go to entire memory, we'll get programs, samples, sequences, and songs. And if we do entire memory too, it even goes into more things like pattern bank and stuff. It's more than we really need right now. But I'm going to do entire memory, and pretty much always I'm going to do entire memory. And I've already made this directory called OJAF, where I'm going to just save it there. So, and I'm going to give it a project name. So I'm going to call it Just Ain't Fair. Whoops. I'm going to just leave that misspelling there for right now. I might rename that, but you'll notice then you've got the project file, you've got all sequences and songs, you've got the OJAF program, and you've got the samples. So it just saved everything that we had there. So this is basically just if we come back in and load this project file, it's going to load all of that stuff basically. So it just makes it more convenient when you go to save all memory like that. So let's go back to main. You'll notice MIDI's still off. So right now I'm triggering the samples in the sequencer. You can see we're not seeing anything light up on Melodics. It's no longer interacting with Melodics. But so what I think. Let's see, I'm about 27 minutes in. Yeah, I think I'm going to call this. This will be all we're going to do for part 1. So right now we've sampled all the pads from this Ooh Just Ain't Fair song. We made a program with it, laying out the drum kit. So we're in pretty good shape for the next part. So I'm going to call this the end of part 1, and when we come back for part 2, I'll go into recording the MIDI sequence of this track and then rearranging it. So thanks for watching.